Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ultimate Championship Wrestling Radio. That's UCW Radio. I'm your host, Stan Lariat, joined by my co-host and tag team partner, as always, Dangerous Doug Roberts. How are you, Doug?
What is happening, great world of UCW fans? This is awesome.
Doug, we've got an exciting night of UCW conversation, as we are going to be joined later tonight by number one contender Jeffrey Bravo. Controversial matchup that he had for the heavyweight championship against Mr. Big Stuff. We're going to be talking to him all about it. Last week, of course, folks, if you missed it, you can go to Spreaker.com and download or listen on demand to our interview with Noise Pollution in reference to their tag team championship matchup and their defense against Bacon and Eggs. That was Ace Montana and Porkchop Johnson. Before that, the week before, we spoke with Red Scorpion about his television championship victory. But this week, it's main event time as we head towards the UCW Heavyweight Championship matchup. Now, Doug, when we were watching this matchup and putting our commentary to it, one thing I noticed was Mr. Big Stuff was really in no hurry to mix it up with Jeffrey Bravo.
Well, I think when you have it, when you're the champ, you can make the pace of the match what you want, and that's the one thing that is good about being the champ and being, Mr. Big Stuff is you can really dictate the pace of the match. And I think one of the things Mr. Big Stuff was thinking about was the fact that Jeffrey Bravo does have a faster pace, a faster style. And it was very interesting to see how these two styles clashed.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the difference between the two men, you've got size, you've got weight, you've got perhaps strength as far as the advantage of the champ. But Bravo being faster, perhaps maybe a little bit smarter than the champion, certainly not trying to take anything away from Mr. Big Stuff. But when you look at the differences between the two, I got to say you're most likely correct that Bravo, who was faster of the two, maybe had a plan to keep the pace as fast as he possibly could. But the champ really was dictating the pace. He kept things in hand, well in hand as a matter of fact, until it seemed as if things got a little bit out of hand when Bravo was diving from the middle of the ring to outside the ring and ended up nailing both KR Superstar and Humphrey J. DuPont.
Well, yeah, I mean, but then you think about it, and not only did Mr. Big Stuff bring his associate, KR Superstar, but Jeffrey Bravo also had the wild card of Humphrey J. And that's where it kind of goes into the, I'm going to use a big word, cerebral warfare, shall we say, of Jeffrey Bravo and the Big Stuff, because Big Stuff used that. He's like, hold up. He used his experience and his veteran status to know, I'm getting out of the way.
Probably the smartest move he could have made in that situation was, bailing on that dive, because as soon as he saw Bravo headed towards him, he headed for the hills. And unfortunately, both Humphrey J and KR Superstar took a majority of the impact, and both were down on the floor on the outside. But this was the opportunity that Big Stuff needed. Now, it was ultimately a kick to the head that I honestly thought had perhaps put Bravo out for the matchup. But Bravo able to recover, getting to his feet, racing to the far ropes, and when he came dashing back, he went for his leaping headbutt and caught just enough of it to knock the champ off his feet. And we saw what appeared to be the crowning of a new champion, at least until we caught the angle from the camera angle, and saw the champ's foot on the ropes.
Well, I mean, and that's where the difference comes into play. Like, some people are talking about there is a conspiracy, that there is, a mystery and all that stuff. But when you look at it, it all goes back to that flying leap on the outside, like you just talked about. I mean, if Jeffrey Bravo would have connected to that with that, it'd have been a different match.
Right.
But then when you are in the ring with somebody like Mr. Big Stuff, Jeffrey Bravo's got to realize that Mr. Big Stuff is always going to know where he is in the ring. And unfortunately, the ref didn't see it, but Big Stuff knew where he was in the ring. And so there for a little while, we all got excited. We all caught ourselves because we thought there was a new heavyweight champion.
Of course. When you think about it, Bravo seemingly becoming the new champion was a big, big moment. And the referee initially did signal for the bell and advised that we had a new champion, that the winner was Jeffrey Bravo. It wasn't until Bill Olson came down to the ring and let our senior official Mike D know what he had observed from the monitor in the back, where basically he advised him of the foot on the ropes. And you're absolutely correct about the champ, because he is always aware of where he is in that ring at all times, and that is a true sign of wrestling veteran, able to get his foot on the ropes, really not having to panic, not having to worry, always having a plan in mind, and that's where the controversy continues. Referees arguing in the middle of the ring, KR Superstar in the middle of the ring, Humphrey J, Ethan Cross, and even of course Jeffrey Bravo. They're all arguing in the ring. Bravo has his back to the champ, and initially they're trying to stick with the decision until ultimately the senior official, Mike D, advises the match will be restarted and will continue. So once that decision's made, as he turns his back for the bell, that's where Big Stuff smashes the briefcase right over the back of the head of our number one contender, Jeffrey Bravo, and scoring the pinfall and successfully retaining the UCW Heavyweight Title.
And I mean, and that right there, it's like the one thing that it's kind of like been a mystery to me a little bit is, and I think in your future UCW radio segment, we need to bring on the boss and ask his opinion of, the ref in the ring should have had the final say. But then the ref comes down to the ring, the senior official comes down, and, the ref didn't see it, but the senior official did. But then what happened was everybody got so caught up in what was going on, you had to have known that the champ was sitting there going, you know what, they're going to restart this thing. I'm gonna get my chance. And he did, I think, what all of us would have done in that time is, he used their weapon against them. The thing about it, you bring a briefcase to the ring, it could be used against you too. And here we go. Jeffrey Bravo in his first, outing with the DuPont family. And there's mystery, there's scandal, and I don't think we've seen the last of this.
No, I definitely don't think that we have either. I mean, when you look at the two sides, the civil war between Big Stuff Industries and the DuPont family has really begun to grow and become much more serious in the way of who is the dominant faction in Ultimate Championship Wrestling. You have to recognize that Jeffrey Bravo seemingly had the champ's number and was really, really ready and willing and able to take care of business and become the champ. But looking at the same side, you have to also look at Big Stuff, who was ready for the challenge and seemingly, just like you said, had a plan. From start to finish, knew what would have to happen. And you know what? That's a good sign of a smart champion. Really indicating that he's patient, he's calm, he's not really losing his mind as far as the result of the matchup. And when the moment arose for him to take advantage, he did do just that in leveling Jeffrey Bravo on the back of the head. Now, my concern or my question for both sides, and to your point, after we speak with the head honcho himself, Mr. DeVore, perhaps we can get KR and Humphrey J on the same line and see if we can discuss with them why we have this discourse between two of UCW's managers, because these guys have been after each other ever since November, when Bravo initially became the number one contender.
Well, I think that one of the issues we have is Jeffrey Bravo is one of the hot up-and-coming talents in UCW. And to me, that's one of the greatest things about UCW is because of the talent that's coming through the doors. And you've got people like Big Stuff, KR Superstar, and other wrestlers that are taking notice to these people coming in the door. I mean, I don't think at all this is the last we've seen of Big Stuff versus Jeffrey Bravo. I think there's great things in store for Jeffrey Bravo in UCW. But I agree with you. In a company like UCW, why are the two families fighting? What is it about? What is the deeper issues here? And when are we ever going to see the end of it? And what's going to have to take to get both Humphrey J and KR on our show to figure it out?
Makes me wonder if we could perhaps arrange a summit between the two. See if we could perhaps start some peace talks and get these guys maybe talking again. And the funny thing is, for guys like the Red Scorpion and Sickened and MC123 and even Cheap Thrills, these are people that really should be paying close attention to this battle, because as the battle between these two factions continue, the opportunity to catch them off guard continues as well, as we saw with Red Scorpion becoming television champion, Ethan Cross losing based off of KR Superstar's involvement right at the end. Don't take anything away from Red Scorpion. He definitely was there and ready to fight. But you got to wonder, had that briefcase not been taken from the coach as he was making his way to hand it over to Humphrey J, what would we have seen? Would we have seen the TV championship stay with Ethan Cross?
Well, I mean, I think the thing you cannot deny is the fact that the Red Scorpion turned the roster on its ear when he showed up. They're like, who is this and where did he come from? And he showed great prominence at earlier Defiance shows. And so he got his opportunity. But I think there's something to be said that the infighting between the families, they took their eye off the prize. I think Humphrey had taken his eye off of Ethan Cross's match, thinking about, hey, Jeffrey Bravo could be world champ tonight or heavyweight champ tonight. So, but also to your point, Sicken, Noise Pollution, Pork Chop, all these guys that are coming in the doors with this civil war, shall we say, between the DuPont family and Big Stuff Industries. In any war, in any fight, there's strength in numbers. So there could be a great opportunity for some of these guys to get on board in the DuPont family or Big Stuff Industries when, down the road, because maybe, hey, manpower.
Certainly. And to your point, I mean, with any war, with any battle, there is going to be collateral damage. And the question now becomes, if Big Stuff Industries and the DuPont family can't make peace and put their issues aside, how much more collateral damage will there be? I mean, will we see the UCW Heavyweight Championship change hands because KR Superstar is distracted and unable to assist his man? Will we see perhaps Tremor finally, turn his back for good on Big Stuff Industries because they can't seem to keep it together either? I mean, there's a lot of questions that we really would like to have some good answers to, and I think that Humphrey J and KR would certainly be the two right guys to talk to. But as I was talking about earlier, Doug, we're going to be talking to the number one contender himself here in just a few moments.
Awesome.
Jeffrey Bravo. Here's a guy who has what he states as the hardest head in professional wrestling, kicked out of the professional football leagues, not NFL, we're talking about football, soccer, if you will, kicked out for excessive violence, made his debut in UCW as a substitute for Mad Max Morrison in Tag Team Championship Defense, and was a huge part of the reason that, and this is interesting, Big Stuff Industries was not able to win the tag team gold, as it was Jeffrey Bravo getting involved and causing a roll-up on Tremor for the victory. Now, that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. And when we come back, we will be joined by the number one contender himself, and we'll get his thoughts on the UCW Heavyweight Championship matchup and much, much more. Stick with us right here on UCW Radio. That's at UCW Forever on Twitter and UCWForever.com. Before you start to run, are you ready? 'Cause I am. It's more than and we are back live here on UCW Radio, right here on Spreaker.com, available on demand at any time, and of course you can download the show from iTunes as well. You can also find UCW on the web at UCWForever.com and at UCWForever on Twitter. Of course, I'm Stan Lariat, and I'm being joined by number one contender and a man who took part in a controversial matchup at our last outing in Ashland, Virginia for Defiance. Jeffrey Bravo, come on in, sir, and let's go ahead and talk about your matchup with Mr. Big Stuff for the UCW title.
Well, thank you for having me, Stan. I know it's your pleasure for having me on here tonight.
Absolutely. You know what? When we started getting these interviews put together, one of the ones I definitely wanted to set up was to get a conversation with you about really the fight with Mr. Big Stuff. First question I have for you about that matchup, the controversial ending. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. You got the 3 count. You were called the new UCW champion. Unfortunately, I mean, Big Stuff's foot was indeed on the ropes. I mean, it was plain as day. We could see it on camera. But it had to have been a roller coaster of emotions for you to go from being, anointed the new champion to being struck from behind with a briefcase to the head. What a tough way for your night to end.
Well, of course, rule the rules. And, unfortunately, Mr. Big Stuff did have his foot on the ropes. So he was lucky that, he was able to escape in that, fashion. However, of course, he had to cheat at the end and, use a foreign object, which was the briefcase, which unfortunately my manager brought into the ring. He took his opportunity. And, of course, he had to, take a cheap way out because he knew he was not man enough to beat me face-to-face, using, what is fair and to me in the center of the ring, fair and square without having to use anything illegal. But he knew he was in a dire situation, and he did what he had to do, and that's why he's champion.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be his MO. When it comes down to it, Mr. Big Stuff is known for his, I won't say shortcuts, but to your point, doing what it takes to win, which isn't necessarily good or bad. It has its consequences each way. But the question I have is how is your relationship now with Humphrey J? After, seeing Mr. DuPont on the outside of the ring trying to, what looked to me, trying to console the champ, and then after you hit the suicide dive, knocking both Humphrey J and KR Superstar to the ground, how is your relationship with Humphrey now? I mean, have you guys spoken since then? Are things okay? Or is the DuPont family running into some issues?
We talked, we talked right after the match, and, unfortunately, you ever saw what happened. And when I hit the suicide dive, I wasn't aiming for DuPont, but he knows when he's at the, when he's on the ringside, anything can happen. And unfortunately, he got in the way of my dive, and Big Stuff was able to, evade it, and he put his manager in the way, and fortunately, I got more of K. And, anytime I get to hit KR Superstar, it makes my day a little bit brighter. So, there was a bright spot at the end of the tunnel there. But, excuse me, me and Humphrey, this is kind of a new venture for us. And, I do trust him, and he trusts me with the world, obviously. But, it's a new thing. So, we're kind of still getting used to each other. So our chemistry might not be exactly what it should be, right from the get-go at ringside every time. But, over time, we will grow stronger and know each other a little better. And, next thing you know, we'll be able to talk to each other without speaking. So, like I said, we talk to each other. We're good. Business is business. Money's money. And, he knows not to make a mistake next time and leave his briefcase, unattended.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the problems with the matchup as far as just the miscommunication, and it's clearly that's what it was. Also, I mean, you can't discount the fact that KR Superstar's involvement clearly causes distraction at every twist and turn. Humphrey J did his best, of course, to kind of get in the way of that, but KR has just been doing this repetitively. He's found a way to win each time for his man, and you got to give him a little bit of respect for that. But at the same time, to your point, I think there's a lot of guys on the roster right now that would love to get their hands on him. Even Noise Pollution, who got a rather negative reaction from the crowd. They've even stated that they would love to get their hands on KR Superstar, which is just amazing to me that they're even paying attention on that side. When we look at what your journey has been since you got to UCW, you got to point out, I mean, your first matchup, you came in and gave the assist to Noise Pollution and retaining the tag team titles while Max was recovering from a broken foot.
Let me correct you right there. I won the tag team titles for Noise Pollution. They should be thankful that I was there in order to do that for them, because obviously they needed my help. So I was able to step in, and being the gentleman that I was, I assisted them. And, rightfully so, I should still be anointed tag team champion, because without my assistance, Rock would not have won that match, because obviously Max was a gimp at that point in time and, couldn't perform. But that's not, anything uncommon for him.
Well, I mean,
Continue, I'm sorry.
That's okay, not a problem. That's a strong statement about the Mad One himself. I will say this. You made quite an impression from the get-go in your first matchup. And then we get to Ultimate Collision, and you win a Battle Royal to become the number one contender. I mean, you were the last man standing, and as you're celebrating your victory, that's where you first meet up with Mr. Big Stuff. Getting to the pinnacle of your time here in UCW, at least at that point. To see Big Stuff attack you from behind, it truly cemented, I think, the fact that he considers you a threat.
Well, I mean, obviously, I should have known right from the get-go, who I was dealing with by, having him sneak attack me right after I was victorious, in that match, and, it was a grueling match, but I've been known to win Battle Royals before. It's not something that's uncommon for me. When I'm put up in a challenging match like that, I, step up to the plate, and of course I get the job done. But, KR Superstar was in the ring, distracted me, and then, his leads came in and hit for behind the championship belt. And, like I said, I should have known right from the get-go who I was dealing with, and that I kind of gave him a little bit more credit, thinking that he was going to show me a little bit of respect, and, knew that I was a top-class athlete and a challenger, at the highest level for his championship. And he knew I was going to walk out the champion in Ashland. And again, like we all saw, he had to use underhanded tactics in order to finish the job and, get the 1, 2, 3 on me, just like he did, when after I won that Battle Royal, then he hit me with the championship belt. So, I would like to get the opportunity to face him one-on-one. We can make it a no disqualification match. We can include weapons. That's nothing uncommon for me to do. We can put weapons in the match. We can make it, a fair match one-on-one, no managers. We can make it a steel cage match. We can make it any kind of match that he wants. It doesn't really matter to me. I just know that going up against him in a fair fight one-on-one, there's no way that he can beat me, and I would definitely walk out the new UCW heavyweight champion.
Well, I mean, the reaction that we heard from the crowd in Ashland, Virginia, when you were announced as the new UCW champion was pretty amazing. They were on their feet. I mean, they really blew the roof off for you. So, again, you look at it from the perspective of all that you had done up to this point to get to that point and to have it honestly stolen from you because, truth be told, had the match been continued, there's no telling as to whether or not you'd have pinned him again. And I think that...
Listen,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's obvious that the fans know and they want a champion who doesn't only, act like a champion inside the ring, but outside the ring as well. Mm-hmm. And he looks like a champion. He, carries himself with dignity and class and respect. And, I'm not going to say, that's not Mr. Big Stuff, because we've seen in the past that he's capable of doing that. But I guess lately, he's forgotten who he was, and, he's kind of let himself go a little bit. He's a little, older, if you know what I'm saying, and he's been around for a little while. And I think the fans want, a champion who, looks the part, acts the part, the total package, if you hear what I'm saying, and
Sure.
Obviously the one Jeff Bravo, looking the way I do, acting the way that I am, being who I am, being the top class athlete that I am, training as hard as I do day in and day out. I am a true champion, and the fans knew that in Ashland, and obviously they were expressing what they want to see, and that is me as the UCW heavyweight champion, representing the brand, with my face and my body and my looks. Who wouldn't want me as champion?
So let's talk about that a little bit. Right now, as it stands, we don't know the status of if you'll have a rematch with Mr. Big Stuff. We've not heard from him since Ashland. We are expecting to hear from him again very soon. But I would only imagine that everything he's indicated at this point would tell us that he may not be interested in facing you again. If indeed...
Well, I got bad news for him. It doesn't really matter if he wants me to face him again. It's not up to him. It's up to the booking committee. It's up to the fans. It's up to the people. It's up to the people in charge. They're the ones who come to me and offer me the contracts. I'm rightful to say yes or no, but as champion, he has to defend the championship. And if I'm the number one contender, I am the rightful heir to that challenge. So therefore, he must step up to the plate if the powers that be put the match in place.
That being said, if he were to refuse to grant you a rematch, and we've seen him, I mean, let's be honest, Jeff, we've seen him pick and choose before. I mean, he won the
KR
title.
Superstar is in his corner, and we do know how shady he is, and he doesn't weasel his way around contracts. So,
Absolutely.
Believe me, I'm well aware.
So, with that being the case, I mean, one of your family members, Ethan Cross, lost the television championship to Red Scorpion. Is that something that, if indeed it went that direction, is that something that you would focus on from there?
Listen, there's only one thing I care about, and that's championship gold. Obviously, I want the top level championship, and that is the UCW Heavyweight Championship. But if a stepping stone is getting that other championship from Red Scorpion, the television championship, I don't mind taking that championship away from him, bringing it back to the DuPont family. Hell, I'll get that championship, and then I'll go up against Mr. Big Stuff, and I'll take his championship too. And then when I take his championship, I'll give Ethan Cross his championship back because he rightfully deserves it. He got cheated out of his championship in Ashland just as well. But, talking about contracts and talking about people, that is why I have hired Humphrey J. DuPont. So therefore, he can take my contracts, do what he can with them. He can manipulate the contracts only the way he can. So I have an ace in my pocket as well as Mr. Big Stuff with his little pocket mouse, KR Superstar.
I tell you what, you definitely have an uphill climb when you start talking about dealing with Big Stuff Industries. You got Mr.
Listen,
Big
don't make
Stuff.
fat jokes about the big guy, okay?
Well, I wasn't going to say it was a hill or mountain, but I mean, since we're going there, I guess that's how it goes. You're also looking at, though, you're also dealing with a guy like Tremor. I mean, let's recognize the elephant in the room when it comes to him. That guy he's a monster.
Saying he's a guy that's well, just like you said, he's not really a guy. He is kind of a monster. So there is no training for someone like that. If I'm forced to get inside the ring with him, which I'm hoping that doesn't happen, somewhere down the line, obviously I'm going to do what I have to do in order to beat him, and I'm not, doubting my ability that I can't beat him. But, once you step in the ring with a guy like that, you don't come out the same.
Yeah, and I've seen, and we've seen, I mean, he took on Sickened, and the only reason that he came up short against Sickened was because of him bumping into KR Superstar. So, I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of room to wonder as to the strength of Big Stuff Industries. And, to be fair, they would probably say the same thing about the DuPont family, since both sides have seemingly run into difficulty. My last question for you, Geoff, is of all the things that you've encountered so far in UCW, of course, your expectation is to become the next UCW heavyweight champion. If indeed it looks as if Big Stuff attempts to maybe sidestep you, what are your plans to get him to agree to the rematch?
Obviously I'm going to have to use Humphrey J. DuPont to the best of his ability. And, he's going to have to litigate as best possible to get me into that number one contender spot and to get my rightful championship match. And like I said, it doesn't matter what kind of match it is. So if Mr. Big Stuff is a champion and he is as big of a man and as big of a legend as he says he is, he shouldn't have to fear getting in the ring with me. His ability should be enough to speak for itself. And he's got KR Superstar too. So, like I said, if he wants to go one-on-one, no manners at ringside, I don't mind doing that. If he wants to go into a steel cage so that way no one can interfere, I don't mind doing that. No DQ, I don't mind doing that. Straight up match, I don't mind doing that. 2 out of 3 falls, I don't mind doing that. My objective is to become the UCW heavyweight champion. After I do that, my next objective is to become the greatest superstar in UCW heavyweight history. And then my legacy will be cemented. Along with Humphrey J. DuPont and Ethan Cross, the DuPont family will reign supreme. We are stronger than ever, even though we had a little slip up in Ashland. And don't you worry. The next time that you see the three of us, we will be stronger and more united than we've ever been.
Well, when you put it that way, Geoff, I mean, it's hard to argue with you. I know that at one point, the DuPont family and Big Stuff Industries were cordial, and as a business relationship, were able to work together. Do you think that could ever happen again once we get past this?
Listen, everybody knows money talks. There's enough money on the table, anything's possible. But also, at the same time, I am an athlete. I am a competitor. And the reason that I step in the ring is not just for money. It's for glory. I love to compete. I love to win. I love to battle. And if I can step in the ring and obtain gold, obtain money, obtain power, obtain fame, it's all the better for me. That's why I position myself where I have in the DuPont family. With Humphrey J. DuPont behind me, Ethan Cross watching our back, there's no way we cannot attain what we came to do.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Jeffrey Bravo, the one Geoff Bravo, having some strong statements for Mr. Big Stuff, the UCW heavyweight champion. Mr. Bravo, where can folks catch up with you on social media?
Well, you can find me kind of all over the place. I am Geoff Bravo on Facebook. I am Geoff Bravo 5 _ AKA on Twitter. And I'm Geoff Bravo or Jeffrey Bravo on Instagram as well. So you can hit me up on any of those places there. You can see me CCW, you can see me UWC in New Jersey, you can see me UCW down in Virginia. You can see me all over the place. You can Google me, you can Facebook me, you can YouTube me. I'm all over the place. And don't forget, you can also see me as an alternate superstar on GTS on YouTube under the Silly Super Pop Station.
Well, Mr. Bravo, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. We definitely appreciate it. And on behalf of UCW fans, I am sure your return match with Mr. Big Stuff will be a stellar encounter, to say the least. I got to be honest, perhaps a one-on-one with managers banned from ringside may be the way to go. But I can't deny the idea of a steel cage match, the first ever in UCW, would be tremendous.
Listen, like I said, I'm up for any challenge that they put in front of me. As long as the UCW Heavyweight Championship is on the line, you know I'll be there.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. For my cohorts, Dangerous Doug Roberts and the Doctor of Desire, Brian Taylor, I'm Stan Lariat saying thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week on UCW Radio.